The Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference is coming to Dallas, Texas, February 16, 17, and 18 in 2018. If you know of a better way to get the latest insider knowledge about crypto, to hear directly from the top minds in this field, to interact personally with 800 fellow crypto lovers, hodlers, investors, miners, traders, developers, and founders, then I'd like to hear about it. If you don't, then you don't want to miss out. Register today for the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference. Go to bitcoinsuperconference.com and register today as a super early bird to get the lowest rates on tickets and hotel rooms. That's bitcoinsuperconference.com.
Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with Future Tech Podcast. My guest today is Justas Pikelis, founder of Monetha, or Monetha, Monetha. Justas, how are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, Richard. Very, very eager to share some news and share some Monetha description about with your audience.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about your background. Where do you come from, and what got you into this venture?
Yeah, so to tell a very long story short, I've been in business for, I guess, around 8 years, starting with, something that was really like in high school, event management. And then as I went into my university years, really got interested in entrepreneurship, startups. I had a few ups and downs in terms of my entrepreneurship journey. And I met my co-founder, Justas, in university. And, it's interesting that we always were the first ones to come, last ones to leave at the university's kind of a co-working space, which was created for the students who had their businesses. And we knew each other very well, and we knew that once our other ventures will stop and we'll be looking for something new, we'll do something together. So having that in mind, I went to work for an angel investor in Asia for about a year. And when I came back to Europe, Justas was also free after his startup, and we decided to do something with payment processing, because that was really, really something that interested both of us. As we did, we understood that blockchain technology is something that is super valuable in terms of, revolution. I don't need to tell that to your audience, a revolution in payment processing. So I had around 3 years ago, I got interested in blockchain technology, and that's thanks to Andreas Antonopoulos. He was the first one to kind of introduce me, and kind of I heard the ideas that he was spreading around, evangelizing. I really like those. And once we understood that we want to, do payment processing, and that would be powered by blockchain, we thought that, we should get some funding in order to do that. So we thought about two ways going the traditional venture capital route, which we're familiar with, or to do an ICO. That decision was made around January 2017, about 10 months ago, as the ICO craze wasn't as popular as it is now. And we thought about those two ways, and thought, that the best way would be, not only because there were, I would say, a little bit unproportionate amounts raised by startups, but the biggest value was that, you have investors all over the world. It doesn't matter what your geographical location is. You can raise money, and once you do, you have multiple investors, a big volume of investors. And what better way for a product like ours which needs a big adoption all around the world. What better way than to have, these evangelists who are your investors? So we decided to go the ICO route, and me, Laurinas, and together we approached Andrei Rutsky, who's our CTO. We, looked at someone who's super competent in software development, who had big experience, and Andre did. He worked at the ad tech company called Adform. It's pretty big in Europe. He was the VP of software development of a leader of 350 people. And we approached him by saying, why don't you quit your high-paying job and, join a team, a startup in which you have to pay in order to work.
Okay. Well, let's back up a little bit. So, the name itself, Monetha, it's a combination of money and Ethereum, or what's the origin of the name?
That's interesting. That you're telling this. I think it's the first one. There was a lot of speculation around the name, but the name comes from in Latin, moneta means currency, money, and in Italian it means currency. In multiple places in the world it means coin. So we wanted to bring a little bit more spice into it and add H after the T. So you can find an Ethereum acronym as some kind of a tribute to Ethereum, because we're using Ethereum blockchain. So you get this combination of this Latin and international world together with Ethereum.
And okay, and tell me, basically, so what is Monetha? What's the premise of it? You want a payment rail, or just boil it down to 2 sentences for a start?
Yeah. So we have two versions that we came up as, our geeks came up with it, is Monetha is creating a decentralized trust and reputation system that is working flawlessly together with an efficient payment processor empowered by smart contracts and on the Ethereum blockchain. So this is a kind of a technical, but, we really like the name, the kind of description that community has given us. And it is a new generation PayPal with a trust layer on top of it. So this is something that we really appreciate by the community, that they boiled it down to, a very simple to grasp sentence.
Okay.
So just to give an example, we do payment processing, and people think that, this is our main kind of value proposition. But there are many payment processors, cryptocurrency payment processors. Our main value proposition is our decentralized trust and reputation system. And this is where we go into the rabbit hole of understanding the complexity of it. So in very basic words, we do provide a trust and reputation for merchants. This is a merchant service. So we're, let's say, I don't know if you're aware of this project called Trustpilot, but they're providing reputation for businesses, and we have a philosophical kind of thought that it's impossible to give a merchant a reputation or trust that is not combined with payment. So with Monetha, we're combining these two things, payments and reputation, and together they work like, bread and Nutella. In terms of when you pay, every transaction is rated by a smart contract, and it's done automatically. It's either something that you do it yourself manually if you want to leave a customized review, but if you don't leave it, if you forget to leave it, or people sometimes don't care that much to leave it, a smart contract recognizes how trustful was the transaction and then rates it. So as mentioned,
what does that mean though? Like, how do you rate the trust of a transaction?
Correct. So these are the many data points that we will be collecting. The difference between Monetha's payment processor and other payment processors is that we collect a lot of data. Not only the transaction value, but also what was bought. We're registering the warranty. We're registering the time, where the how the transaction went, if there was a claim. In very basic kind of understanding, let's think that a default, if you if you don't make a claim or if you don't leave a negative rating, that was a good transaction. You got your goods or you got your service, and there's nothing that you wanted to complain about. So this is how we, in order for us to boil down in very, very specific details what is going to be the reputation rating when the buyer forgets to rate the merchant, there needs to be collected a lot of data points. But the main premise behind this is that.
Well, all right, so if a buyer doesn't rate a transaction, I can see why they wouldn't, because let's say I buy something and it takes 3 days to ship to me. Or let's say I buy a sandwich from a deli, and I leave and I go eat the sandwich. Maybe the transaction was just neutral, but I eat the sandwich and the sandwich was really good. And now I think, oh, that was good. You know what? I really liked how the guy took extra care in making it. Or they shipped me the item and I got it and everything's looking good. I love it. And I had a question about it and I called them. And so it seems like the trust evolves after the purchase. And I would think a lot of purchases would be like that. So do you have a mechanism to ask people if they don't rate a transaction, or even if they do, it sounds like you want to update their thoughts about the transaction once it's consummated, a day, 3 days, a week later. So it seems like you need a mechanism for that,
Absolutely, and this is where you're starting to understand the whole concept that, of course, we don't rate for transaction once it's instantly once it's made. We will wait, of course, for a person to receive goods, for a person to, as you mentioned, to finish his sandwich. But one thing that we really kind of focus on is e-commerce, because there's a lot of fraud, there's a lot of chargebacks. There's a lot of, let's say, uncertainty. And because, for example, you go into a store, a physical store, and you buy something, you kind of, once it's a physical store, there's human interaction involved. There's trust already being built. But, for example, for a merchant who's living in China and wants to participate in global commerce, and maybe he sells something really extraordinary, very rare, or maybe something that is cheaper than anywhere else, but he doesn't have the tools, or let's say he doesn't have the chance to participate in global commerce unless he joins a centralized marketplace like Alibaba, let's say. So when he does, and a lot of merchants don't do that because of several reasons. First of all, there are fees. Second of all, it's something that you're kind of tied to in terms of when you sell something, there's a race to the bottom. It tends to be that the merchants who
I can tell you
the lowest price win. And for to have an alternative to build your own online presence, it is a great tool to have to build a reputation that would be recognizable all over the world.
Yeah, here's another experience. So on Alibaba or on Amazon especially, you don't get customer data. Amazon does.
Correct.
So you're forced to use their platform, their rules, adhere to what they're doing. You're in a competitive environment, and you don't really have a chance to interact with your customers later. They either come back and buy or they don't. So it's like, well, it's not really slavery, but I mean, it's not a very good setup. It's like indentured servitude. So this is good that you have this. One interesting use I thought of from a marketing standpoint. So let's say I sell X, I sell a widget. I want people to rate the transactions, but it gives me a reason when I follow up to ask them to rate the transaction later, and to say, is there anything else we could be of service, or hey, here's another item you may want to add on to what you bought. So it's a marketing function too, not just this trust. It seems to lift all boats. It's a good thing.
Of course, those are really good points, especially about the data that Amazon collects. It's a centralized marketplace. They're the ultimate beneficiary. Plus, imagine this. For example, you're selling on Alibaba and it's going pretty well, but you want to explore other fields. Let's say you want to sell on Amazon. And for example, in Alibaba, you built your trust to whatever extent, let's say 2,000 reviews, 2,000 great reviews, you're a trustful merchant. But if you want to switch the platforms, you cannot transfer that trust. So this is something that our users also told about. That they're very kind of disappointed that there is no feature to universalize the trust.
Oh, interesting. That makes sense. So, let's say someone does work with Amazon or Alibaba. Is there somehow that you can interact with their merchant account to get them data on the customers, or at least build up a trust rank regardless? Or it's only if they don't use Amazon or Alibaba and they use your system?
So what you're meaning is, can we, let's say, get some data and create a new profile for them on Monetha of their trust that they already built, right?
Yeah, do you aggregate the trust that's out there from their Alibaba ranking, their Amazon ranking, their whatever rankings? Do you aggregate that in when a new merchant comes on board with you?
Yeah, so we do have, just because we're in this kind of very interesting product phase where we're exploring and, trying to figure out what merchants want and, build the product by their demand. We're working with the merchants very, very closely. We're having this, thought from Silicon Valley that do the things that don't scale in order to scale, to kind of understand what are their needs and build the product accordingly. And yes, we do have ideas how to, let's say, piggyback the trust that they already built online and make it something that they can use in Monetha. But this is something that I would love to talk about a little bit later as we're figuring out what would be the best platform to do that.
What about the transactions themselves? Is Monetha literally the merchant account? Like, what part of the process are you in? If I have an e-commerce store, do I use like a Monetha merchant gateway to process my transactions?
Exactly. You do have to register. You have to go through the screening process. We only want to collaborate with merchants who are not in the gray zone, who aren't doing anything illegal. So, for example, when we started our merchant, our payment processor, which we already built an MVP, which lets a person in either Magento, WooCommerce stores, or custom-built e-commerce stores use our payment processor. We got a lot of inquiries from merchants who, let me just say, they're not doing very, clear business and transparent business.
Sure.
So, we always decline those, do a screening process, understand who's the person behind it, and only then integrate them into our platform. It is for us important that at the end of the day, people who would see that the merchant is selling through Monetha and he would have a good rating in Monetha, they would be super comfortable in buying from that merchant because they would know that he's trustworthy.
And since you're going to be using smart contracts, I would think that you have another benefit. So not only can you let a merchant take credit cards, but are you going to let them take crypto as a payment form?
Yeah, so this is, we're starting with niche. We're starting with crypto and understanding how we can evolve together with this market. This is a niche market which is growing super fastly, but we're not delusional. We understand that the main population adoption may come in 2 years, may come in 3 years, maybe 5, who knows. That's why our main kind of trick up our sleeves and something that we're developing throughout the whole process and staying very flexible with our technical decisions is fiat transactions, or for those who don't know, the traditional currency to traditional currency being processed through the Ethereum blockchain. Very similarly what Circle does from peer-to-peer fashion, we want to do it from a buyer to a merchant. So both the buyer would, transact, let's say, US dollars, and the merchant would get US dollars. But the transaction would happen faster. It would happen cheaper, and it would benefit with the smart a decentralized trust and replication system.
So is it crypto first and then fiat later, or is it both at the same time? What's going to be available on your platform to merchants?
Yeah, so when we're looking at our technological milestones, we're definitely doing crypto first. We want to, really stay, it may sound funny, but stay true to our roots and really service the ones who want to spend their cryptocurrencies. Even the whole idea of Monetha has started from the need of us founders. We wanted to transact cryptocurrencies. We had ethers, but there was no elegant platform to spend them at merchants. So this was the kind of the first stick to use blockchain to use cryptocurrencies. But as mentioned, not necessarily a backup plan, but something that, an additional value, something that is in long-term vision is doing fiat-to-fiat transactions.
And when you say crypto, is it Ethereum, or what about Bitcoin? Are you going to take Bitcoin too?
So obviously Bitcoin has scalability issues, of course, as the same as Ethereum does. But the thing is that at the moment, we're transacting ether to ether in a very simple form. Very soon, and as our first technological milestone approaches, we will transact the ERC20 tokens, Ethereum-based cryptocurrencies. And of course, we do look at other cryptocurrencies, but we're staying very confident that Ethereum will solve these. Solve the scalability issues, whether that's going to be proof of stake, off-chain state channels, maybe plasma or block size increase. We'll see, but this is something that we're looking forward to.
What about integrating Shapeshift? So people can funnel their other cryptos into Ether. That might increase your the merchant's availability to take crypto.
That's a good idea, and that's something also that is something that's being developed at the moment, that the merchants would be able to use exchanges APIs. So, for example, he could choose from the preferences how soon he wants to exchange his cryptocurrency received into fiat currency, and that's the kind of how tolerant is the merchant in terms of the cryptocurrency volatility. So that could be every 5 seconds, that could be every 5 purchases, that could be instantly, that could be every $500 that he wants to convert his cryptocurrencies into fiat currency. And this is, again, something that was the first kind of question that was raised by our test users, that they would like to have that, and we're starting to build that.
Yeah, because you could have a front end, so at least you could accept Bitcoin. Users wouldn't know, for instance, that maybe it's shape-shifted into Ether. They would just know, I could also pay in Bitcoin too, which is a huge payment rail in crypto. So it's just my idea, throwing it out there.
Agreed, and this is a great idea, but at the moment, looking at Bitcoin, again, it rise and kind of again the popular kind of top of mind cryptocurrency is Bitcoin, and we definitely understand that. But that's, in our opinion, is the gold, kind of something that is very unagile. But I do agree with your idea. At the moment, we're trying to again focus on the niche, and that is Ethereum.
Gotcha. Okay. What's on the roadmap for you guys? You have a lot coming. But where are you at right now? What's coming in the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months? Let's give folks an idea of when this is going to roll out and where you're at right now.
Yeah, I'm very glad that I can share this with your audience. So we finished our ICO just 6 weeks ago, and this is something that is still super hot. Something that we have to take care of the legal stuff, take care of the formalities. Opening up development offices, because our main company is in Switzerland, but our development office is in Central Europe, Lithuania. Our sales and business development, most likely is going to be in Singapore. These kind of things just to prepare the ground in order for us to really boom on 2018. So, of course, the main focus at the moment is hiring the best developer team as possible, adding to what we had pre-ICO, adding the, I don't know how people are aware, but we raised 95,000 ethers in 18 minutes, which at that moment was worth $37 million. So we do have capital, and we're going to use that capital very smartly, and we do understand that at this point of time, really the hardcore building, the development of Monetha's technology is the most important thing. So developers first, but in terms of being able to service more and more merchants with a product that is more elegant, that is something that will have a beautiful interface, we're looking at somewhere in mid-2018, late 2018, where we will be able to enable the trust and reputation system, where we will have our own wallet for people to use all the necessary functions that it provides.
Yeah, and what kind of feedback are you getting from potential merchants now? Do they want to accept payment in Ether and keep it in Ether, or do they want to convert part of it to fiat or all of it? What do they want to do? What are you going to let them do?
That's a great idea, and we're going to let them do the things that they're the most comfortable with. But surprisingly, or maybe not, because those are the people who are early adopters, those who are aware of the crypto world, or their friends are aware of the crypto world, they want to keep it in cryptocurrencies. Most of them are really keen on having that. So, of course, that's something that is built with the first base of merchants. As long, the further we go, the less kind of awareness there will be about the cryptocurrencies, and people will want to exchange into fiat currencies. But at the moment, we're getting a lot of crypto enthusiasts who firmly believe in the future of Ethereum.
Okay. I mean, that's great. So you're going to leave it open to them as to if they want to keep their sales in Ethereum, or are you going to,
That's totally up to their preference, yeah.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, because I could see them say, all right, we'll keep 80% Ether, but we need 20% fiat for other operations, or, they could choose their split, I guess.
That's nice. That's creative thinking, and that's definitely that we would let them to do. It depends on the tolerance of the cryptocurrency volatility. As now it is super volatile. People sometimes, are concerned about it when we approach the merchants that haven't, been very familiar with crypto. But, that might change, and we're going to be, as mentioned, very, let's say, data-driven and understanding what merchants need, because this is a service for the merchants which is going to be built for them.
And are you going to deal with only online merchants and websites, or are you going to actually at some point have a physical terminal where people can swipe, like Stripe, or any possible integration with them, or a physical device?
Yeah, that's something that we're looking forward to in later stages of Monetha. We're thinking about mid-late 2019. First of all, we want to really pin down on the e-commerce, as we feel our solution is the most useful there. But I feel that even now we get inquiries from the physical stores who are using point of sale terminals to integrate with Monetha to accept cryptocurrencies, because they're getting this kind of lively feedback from their customers. Maybe we can pay with cryptocurrencies, and they're looking for these payment gateways. But in terms of the retail, we're looking at somewhere mid-late 2019. Again, really focusing on the e-commerce. Once that's being taken care of, in a very flawless and elegant solution, we will switch some of the resources to retail too.
And what about accepting fiat? I know that's, I know you're starting with crypto, but that's where the, by far the biggest pool of money will be. I know that'll come later, but, do you think it'll come at all, or do you think you guys are not even going to touch that?
Absolutely, we're gonna get into fiat currency payment processing because, as you mentioned, as mentioned before, there's we do not know when the mass adoption for cryptocurrencies as a currencies will come in. That might happen in 5 years. That might never happen. So that's why we understand this and we're working on the fiat to fiat solution. It does take more than it is a little bit harder to do that than cryptocurrency let's say payments, in terms of that we want to do fiat to fiat processing under the Ethereum blockchain. Fiat to fiat payment processing is super easy. You would see the code, all the payment gateways have the same code, and for us it is still important to use the blockchain technology, as I mentioned in your podcast. Just in the beginning, we understood that blockchain technology is a revolution in payment processing. So either way, we're going to use that, and only that, to eliminate all the unnecessary intermediaries and do the transactions faster, cheaper, and with trust.
Yeah, it also sounds like, and I'll stop leading you down these paths in a second, but it also sounds you could license your trust application to regular fiat merchants to give them a taste for what you guys can do, and maybe get into that market without having to get in fully. Again, just an idea that the trust is a valuable thing in itself, that system that you're going to set up for any merchant, regardless of how they take payment.
Richard, so either you have a very creative mind for product, or you are spying on us. Because we're into this, because we're already strategizing how we can do that, piggybacking, let's say, on the payment processors, and getting some data and understanding that it's still in very free form as we saw this opportunity and trying to figure out how we can implement this. But yes, you're right. This is definitely one of the paths that we may go.
Okay, well, excellent. All right, well, I'll stop with the crazy ideas, and we'll just focus on your stuff. But all right, so how can people? I don't know if you have a beta set up yet, or how can merchants listening and people listening get involved more with Monetha?
That's easy. You can go into monetha.io, check our website, understand what it's all about. All the social medias, we're super active on those. None of the questions are being lost. Every question is being answered. And for a merchant, all you have to do is to just press on the button, try our MVP. Or if you want us to lead, if you have a WooCommerce store, or you have a Magento store, or even custom-built e-commerce site, you can either do that, or if you don't have a lot of, not a lot of, but just a basic technical knowledge, all you can do is write an email. So shoot it an email, merchants@monetha.io, and our customer service will take care of you to help you with the setup.
Oh, one question I forgot. We'll move this back earlier, or maybe we'll keep it here. But what's the role of the token, and what's the token's name? Is it Monetha token? Again, what's the role of it?
That's a great question. This is our token acronym is MTH. Again, a little bit of a tribute to ETH, but our token is super involved in our ecosystem. So our transaction fee is 1.5%, and a third of that, 0.5%, goes into the pool of for the token holders. And this is not a dividend-based token. This is a utility token. So those the token holders who will be holding tokens long term, they will be eligible to claim their portion proportionately to what they're holding to get these tokens to get these tokens in to their the MTH tokens into their app of Monetha, and then use it as a voucher system. So for their purchases for Monetha merchants, so there you can see the whole ecosystem that has been set up for both the token value to rise and for the merchants to be able to use Monetha tokens. The benefits of Monetha tokens. This has been done. At first, we thought about doing a profit sharing token, but as we consulted with KPMG lawyers in Switzerland, they have been great in forming the whole structure of the token for it not to be a security and for it to be a utility token. So we're super happy about it. As regulation starts cracking down, we're feeling safe, and both the buyers, the token holders of Monetha, are also excited about this form.
Okay, very good. Well, Justas, this is awesome. It's I can't wait to see how this grows and takes hold. Thanks for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Richard. And if anybody has any questions about Monetha, either shoot it team@monetha.io or Justas, Justas @monetha.io. Any social media platform that is comfortable to you, we're definitely going to be taking care of you, answering all of your questions. This has been a great half an hour. Thanks.
The Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference is coming to Dallas, Texas, February 16, 17, and 18 in 2018. If you know of a better way to get the latest insider knowledge about crypto, to hear directly from the top minds in this field, to interact personally with 800 fellow crypto lovers, hodlers, investors, miners, traders, developers, and founders, then I'd like to hear about it. If you don't, then you don't want to miss out. Register today for the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference. Go to bitcoinsuperconference.com and register today as a super early bird to get the lowest rates on tickets and hotel rooms. That's bitcoinsuperconference.com.
You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.